how successful stories will be, but there will be exchanges of the stories. So this session, we aim to encourage peer learning by facilitating an environment where participants can learn from each other's experiences and motivate participants to implement new strategies and approach by sharing real-life stories and outcomes. We encourage participants to reflect on their work and identify growth or improvement areas by comparing your experiences with the shared stories. Our moderator, Azrin Sikdar, from Health and Wellbeing Action Group, Toronto East Quadrant Local Immigration Partnership. Azrin Sikdar is a community engagement specialist who credits everything she knows about community building from growing up and working in Scarborough. Growing up in Scarborough, Azrin experienced firsthand the way blanket policies, strategies, and methods of engagements left the most vulnerable members of her community behind, and how partnership built by community members helped bridge those gaps. In her work, Azrin utilized an intersectional, inclusive, and cross-sectorial approach to respond to the needs of diverse communities, and has experienced both working on the ground directly with community members, as well as behind the scenes with service providers to support social impact initiatives in the health, settlement, and nonprofit space. Please join me welcoming Azrin.
Thanks so much, Tarana. So as mentioned, we're at our last session for the day, learning together, exchanging successful stories, and we'll be hearing 3 different stories from a wide range of speakers. I'd like to first bring up Memengwa Bell, who will be sharing our first story, Connecting to Indigenous Youth's Lived Experiences. From an Indigenous young woman, you will hear a story of lived experiences growing up in Wikimeekong, an unceded Indian territory. We will delve into specific challenges and the opportunities she's encountered throughout her life. She will also share the resources available to Indigenous youth and her professional experiences supporting them. Memengwa Bell is 20 years old and was born and raised on Wikimeekong's unceded reservation. Memengwa currently works as a cultural program coordinator at Enigbi Indigenous Youth Agency, a nonprofit organization that services Indigenous youth with mental health and addictions. Before that, she worked as a crisis intervention specialist in her hometown in Toronto with the Mindo Minising Mental Wellness Crisis Response Team and Toronto Community Crisis Services. Please put your hands together for Memengwa.
Ani, hello. I'm a bit nervous. I'm just gonna put that out there. So my name is Memengwa. I come from the Wikwemekong unceded Indian Territory. Let me change that up. I was displaced on a reservation called Wikwemekong unceded Indian Territory. My people are originally from the North America, Turtle Island. I'm 20 years old. I was born and raised on Wikwemekong unceded Indian Territory, as well with my 2 other siblings and my single mother. I know I'm supposed to come up here and talk to you guys a little bit about my experience being an Indigenous youth, but also how we can connect Indigenous youth and newcomer youth and how to build that relationship. But in order to do that, we need to learn our history. I, as an Indigenous person, I live under a law called the Indian Act. In the Indian Act, we are recommended to carry these cards. Well, we have to carry these cards. And if we don't carry these cards, we are not Indian or Indigenous. And it actually says certification of Indian status. So my nephew was just born about 2 days ago, and he is half Jamaican and half Native. Oh my gosh, I love him so much already. But to me, it is up to him now if he is going to have a child with an Indigenous person so they can get this, And if not, we're no more. And that is exactly what the government wants. My two siblings, their name is Ocean and Wyatt. My name is Memingwa. 25 years ago, it was illegal to put an Indigenous name on a birth certificate. Less than 50 years ago, it was illegal for us to get off of our reservations. So my grandma is about 72 years old. She was able to leave her reservation when she was 22 years old. I'm not saying this to make anybody feel bad, but these are the realities that we are living in. I'm able to stand up here in front of all of you guys because of my lived experience. I'm also carrying tobacco. This is one of our medicines that we carry to kind of protect ourselves, but to connect ourselves with the creator. So I don't want to be talking at you guys. I want to talk with you guys. Any questions or comments that you guys may have, feel free to ask, because in Indigenous studies and Indigenous history, who's teaching those classes? It ain't me. I know it ain't my people either. So this is the right time to be asking these questions. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised on Wakamekong unceded territory. I thankfully finished high school and lost many friends to suicide and overdoses. I'm not sure if any of you guys heard of the Indian residential schools. We are still 10,000 and counting of children that have gone missing and have not came home. We are the #1 rate of missing and murdered Indigenous women and men and two-spirited people to go missing in this country. We are the #1 people to be incarcerated in this country. Our children make up, I think, 52% of the Canadian welfare system. And we only make up 4% of the population. So what does that say? I think we need to understand history before we go and say, okay, how are we going to make this connection? I think we are very far from that. I think as an Indigenous youth myself, when I sit in this room and see the privilege that each and every one of you have to sit here and eat your hors d'oeuvres and have your nice water, when back home, we don't have clean drinking water. We don't have the privilege of having that food that you guys have, right? And when I walk down here, I don't see anybody that looks like me. And I wonder why, right? And I'm not saying this to make anybody feel bad, but in order to understand and how to make these connections, we got to go back and understand, are we reliving it or are we actually making a difference? So enough talking at you guys. If you guys have questions, I was going to share a bit about cultural awareness. And right now I'm wearing a ribbon skirt. I'm not sure if anybody had any questions about that. But back in the day, it was illegal for us to wear things like this. I'm not fluent in my language because my grandma was scared that I was going to be sent to one of those schools and she didn't want anything bad to happen to me. So with that being said, I had to go and search for my purpose. I had to go and search for my teachings. And a lot of my people are colonized, right? And that's what the Canadian government wanted, and that's what they continue to want. It's intimidating to stand in front of all you guys and kind of tell you guys what we had went through and I guess the challenges and tribulations that we go to today, because that's all I've heard my whole life, right? I haven't been able to sit in a room with my people and be able to have these conversations. And I just want to embed that in everybody's head, is because you guys have these privileges as Canadians to be able to do that. When we have been colonized and discriminated and displaced, so you guys can come here and sit in these rooms and do that. Okay? And it's not to make, like I said, anybody feel bad. But if we want Indigenous people and the new people that are coming into these countries, we got to be able to sit down and have these conversations, because my life was a lot different than yours, but probably very similar. My life was a lot different than yours, but probably very similar. I grew up in third world conditions in a first world country, and I did not figure that out until I moved to the city of Toronto. And oh gosh, was that a culture clash? Oh my gosh. I grew up on a reservation where it was just me and Indigenous people. And when I got here, I was like, oh my God, I did not know there was this many people in the world. Like I thought my reservation was the world, like, because we don't have that proper education, right? And so when we talk about inviting them to these spaces, reservations don't have schools. So that's why there's the highway of tears. Our women will literally leave their community to go to schools to get educated. But while they're on that journey, they either become missing or murdered. I'm trying to think if there's any bright side to anything I am saying, but I guess I am the bright side. I'm a 20-year-old Indigenous youth that is able to now come with a lived experience. As you guys seen, I was a crisis intervention worker. And so I was very angry, and I still am very angry at the things that a lot of us go through, because I know it's not just me and my people. A lot of us have went through that. Probably each and every single one of us has faced something like that within our lifetime. But how do we deal with that, right? Do we become a product of our environment? Do we continue to let these intergenerational traumas hurt us? No. So there could be good and there can be bad. But where was I going with that? Yes. So I do work as a crisis response specialist, and that is through lived experience. I was able to walk into a crisis situation and be able to assess the situation and realize how I'm going to deal with that. Like I said, police brutality is one of the biggest things that are taking away our people, but out of sight, out of mind. You don't know what's happening on the reservation. So there's things like that. So that is why I became a crisis response intervention specialist, is because a lot of my people were being killed on wellness checks, domestic violent disputes, you name it, right? So I thought, who couldn't help my community better than me? And that is a connection all of us have, right? We all want to help our community. So how are we going to do that? One of the words today was clients. They're not our clients. There are people that need help. We were once in their shoes. We were once their age. One day I'm gonna be 50 years old, and I gotta remember what it was like being 20 in 2024. But when I'm 50 years old, it's gonna be, I don't even know, like 20, 35, I don't know. But times are gonna be different and times are changing. And our youth are coming from reservations, our youth are coming from third world countries, and they're coming to this place. And how do we navigate them? How do we not let them fall through the cracks? How do we not let this stuff happen, right? Because there's 13-year-olds overdosing. The youngest person I've buried, one of my friends, was 12 years old. And I'm continuing to lose them every day. So how are we going to change the narrative in each and every one of our stories? And I think one of the things is just understanding the people we're working with, but also understand yourself. Because I know each and every one of us aren't in here for the paycheck, because it ain't that good. Like, let's be honest. We're here to help our people. And how are we going to do that? And that's the question I kind of want to leave with you guys is, what made you start this work? Why do you want to do it? And how is that person that's sitting across from you asking you for help going to teach you how to be a better worker? Right? Because if it wasn't for them, they wouldn't need us. If it wasn't for the bravery for them to come up to us and ask us, I need help. That's the most hardest things you can say is, I need help. And yeah, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know. I did have a whole speech written up in my head, but I was completely blank when I came up here. So now, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Don't leave me hanging, please. But yeah.
There is more native people than the number that appears on the census. Excuse me. And the reason. Oh, sorry.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay. So I was asking, at my country, where I come from, I'm from Colombia, there is more indigenous people than the real number that appears on the official numbers. And the reason is, although we don't have to carry out a card like in here, and this is just shocking, I'm actually very surprised. Many people don't self-identify as indigenous or First Nations, mainly because there is a sense of persecution and there is a sense of shame somehow because we still carry out that colonialism speech. So I was wondering if that could be the case in here, that there is more people, that the one that really wants to self-identify as First Nation.
Yeah, a lot of our people are scared because, like I said, a lot of our people do become products of our environment. Residential school did have a big impact on our people. They were sent there from when they were 3, like from 0 to I think 18. And then in those schools, they were told like we were the devil, we were the devil's language. They would scrub us. Like like some people in my family will still wash their hands over and over and over and over and over again because they think they're dirty. Like those are what the schools taught us, right? And a lot of my peers don't like being Indigenous because they think that a lot of their traumas and tribulations came from being Indigenous, right? Those schools have caused a lot of harm to people. So I do believe like, yeah, there was some point in my life too where I didn't want to be Native. And there's some days where it's still like that, where it's like, it would be better if I just wasn't Native because there's a lot of anger that comes within it, right? Seeing your grandma cry, seeing your grandma have PTSD, seeing your mother have PTSD, and then seeing your own people inflict that on their own people because of how they were taught. So yes, that's kind of how it is down here. We may not think there's a lot of Indigenous people around, but they're around. They know how to hide because that's what we were taught. We had to hide or we would die. And we're still getting rid of those traits because, like I said, we have a lot of intergenerational trauma. And it's either you become a product of your environment or you find a way to change your environment. And so right now we're kind of in that mix because a lot of people are healing and a lot of people want to be the healers. So we're fighting kind of against each other. Yeah, so it's a lot because I don't want to say there's nothing good that comes with being Indigenous. We have a beautiful culture. We are still strong, but the things that I've seen in my lifetime, I don't think it's because we're bad people. I think it's just because of what other people inflict on us. So if we think like, okay, maybe if I just cut this card up and never get one ever again, people won't think I'm Native. Maybe I should be Aztec or no, that's still Indigenous. Or maybe I should be something else, right? And I have felt like that. I do feel like that. I know a lot of other people feel like that too. So I understand the people over there. He said Colombia. In Colombia, yeah. And that was one of the places that Christopher Columbus actually touched was in the Caribbean islands. So colonization is still very, very, very new. Probably only like 3 great grandmothers away. So yeah. If you guys have any questions, like, do we still live in teepees, wear feathers on our head, like anything you guys want to ask, don't be scared. I've heard a lot of things in my life. You're not easy to offend.
When I first moved to Canada, I remember I had this image of Indigenous people riding horses with long black hair.
Yes.
But I first time to Winnipeg, there were much more Indigenous people living in Winnipeg compared to Toronto. And it was so different from the image that I had.
Yeah.
So in your speech, you mentioned that there is no school in the territory. So if someone wants to continue studying, they have to go out of the territory, right?
Yep. They would have to leave their.
They not from the government, they left the territory. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So.
Study how, but I know it's probably quite difficult to do that. Otherwise, people would do it. Like that's a mentality that you hear from lots of people. They think that Indigenous people could change their lives, but they didn't. We know that's not the reality. So just want to get some information.
Yeah. So on the reservation, Indigenous person pays 0 taxes. That's because they want to keep us on the reservation. So we don't pay any tax on reservation. Once we leave the reservation, we pay all taxes. We pay our like the retirement, I think, employment insurance, and then the tax and harmonized tax. When I go to the store, we pay taxes and stuff like that, but on reservation, we pay nothing as Indigenous people. We do get free education as Indigenous peoples, to a certain amount for certain courses. Obviously, there's things we have to follow to do so. So yes, we do get free education. A lot of the reservations out west. So I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of the Highway of Tears. So when you get time, you should search up the Highway of Tears, and that is the Trans-Canada Highway. So a lot of our women and men, they would walk along the Trans-Canada Highway because you know how long it is. Like there's nothing there but Indian reservations. So when they want to go to school, they'll either hitchhike on the Trans-Canada Highway. And if people recognize you're Indigenous and they know the history of Indigenous people, they'll sell you, like human trafficking. We're the number one people to go missing and murdered, but I don't think we're missing, and I don't think we were murdered. There's a big human trafficking epidemic, and our women are going missing. So there's things like that that affect our people, but also we could change our lives if we had the proper resources. There's millions of resources out here for different other cultures, different other people, but you don't see resources specifically for Indigenous peoples. Because like I said, we're in a first world country living in third world conditions. Just 2 hours outside of this city, Six Nations of the Grand Rapids, they don't have clean drinking water unless you're tied to the pipe. So food sovereignty is even something that's a big thing. So I think education for Indigenous people is the least thing on their mind. We're worried about surviving in this world, right? And the government talks about giving us free money. We have no financial literacy. We are addicts. Some of us are addicts. So where I come from, we had a big academic of drugs, of fentanyl. The same time the money came in. That doesn't really 2 and 2 equals 4 in my head, right? So I don't see a lot of Indigenous youth having that passion to go to school, having that passion to do this, because one, they're going through a lot in their own communities. They're healing. There is a lot of anger in their community, and there's plenty of generations of Indigenous people that have never left the reservation, never, and will probably never see the day of light outside of the reservation. Oh yeah, she has the mic.
So, like as an Indigenous, what do you think it would be a proper help for Indigenous people? Like, where should that start?
I think understanding, like when you look at me, you would never know what I've been through, or what I endured, or what I encountered. I think treating everybody like they have trauma and like they have tribulations. And I think abolishing the Indian Act, we're living under a different law than every one of you. We have to live under 2 laws. And back in the day, like less than 50 years ago, if we didn't abide by that, we'd get killed. And there's something called Starlight Tours as well. The list can go on and on. But like I said, everybody lives with trauma and tribulations, but how are we able to get over that, right? So my mom was the very first person to go to college, and I'm so thankful for her. But the one thing that really makes me sad is out of my whole friend group, I was probably the only one to have a healthy mom, to actually be there for me and hug me when I cry. Because a lot of them are still suffering from that intergenerational trauma, and we're talking heavy, like heavy stuff. As an Indigenous person, how do I think we can fix it? If you want my straight answer, give us back what was ours and go, like, give us back what is ours and give us our space to heal. Because we continue to go through this trauma, and there's no grace period. There's no, what are we gonna do? And if a lot of our youth that come to this city and try to get a better life, they don't make it here. They either pass away or they fall through the cracks of addictions, right? I think as human beings, or as mammals, we're searching for something. And that's what a lot of our youth are searching for. They're searching for either love or whatever it may be, right? Um, as an Indigenous person, I honestly don't know. I think just we need ourselves to help ourselves. We need the Indigenous studies to be taught by Indigenous people. We need to have a safe space for us to ask, what do we need, right? We are a sovereign people. We were supposed to be sovereign, but why is half of the Indigenous population in Canada, or not in Canada, in Toronto, in Island Gardens with tents, right? So that is a very good question. And honestly, I wouldn't know, but I feel like having proper schooling on reservations, giving us clean drinking water, giving us food security, because like I said, we're not worried about anything of going to school. We're worried about feeding our family, taking care of ourselves, and staying alive, right? And not a lot of us have the ability to come to the city like me. And like I said, this is a privilege for me and for you guys. It is a very, very big privilege because a lot of my friends aren't going to see outside of the res. And there's nothing I can do about that, right? Unless I work my ass off, but what is that going to do? Yeah, that's a very touchy subject. And I actually never really thought of that, on how to do that. I thought of becoming the first prime minister, but yeah, I've thought of it. But like I said, there's a lot more things that I have to take care of my grandma, right? I have to do a lot of these things. And these are things that 20-year-olds should not be thinking about, right? There's a lot of things when I was 16 years old that I shouldn't be thinking about, but I was. So I think we need to go through the basic necessities so we can worry about living and not surviving. So yeah, I think that's, I guess, the broader answer I can give you. Yeah. So thank you guys for giving me this space. It's scary. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the last one, but this is also a part of truth and reconciliation. You guys are here sitting, learning the truth, and how are we going to reconcile, right? So thank you guys for listening. Oh, that was a lot. All right.
Thank you so much. What a powerful story, and just such a potent reminder of the privilege that we have to be in this space and for the work that we do. I know it doesn't always seem like that, but I think that story is a huge reminder that we are in this space and it's a privilege. Shifting gears a little bit, like to share about our next sharing and story, sharing of the Conics project led by York Region District School Board. So from 2022 to 2024, the York Region District School Board implemented a newcomer youth program to best meet the needs of our newcomer youth. This research program examined 2 delivery modules, online and in person, to determine the best platform in meeting settlement needs of newcomer youth. Join us as we explore the learnings of this process. This session will cover the program's activities, methodologies, and outcomes, providing valuable insights into what worked well and areas for improvement. Attendees will gain an understanding of effective strategies for engaging youth in schools, including best practices for fostering participation, addressing challenges, and creating an inclusive and supportive environment. The sharing aims to equip participants with actionable knowledge and practical approaches that can be applied to enhance youth engagement in specifically educational settings. Presenting this is Patty O'Sullivan, Community and Partnership Developer of Conics Project and Sharing. Patty has been employed by York Region District School Board for the past 15 years. Her role in the Department of Inclusive Schools and Community Services has continued her passion towards supporting those who face inequity and marginalization. Through her current role as project lead supporting newcomer high school students, she continues to develop systems that lead to the successful integration and settlement of newcomer youth. Patty also continues her commitment to inclusivity and equity as a part-time professor with Seneca Polytechnic College, teaching inclusive practices and advocacy with the School of Early Childhood Education. Please welcome me in welcoming Patty.
Thank you very much. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today. We always love the opportunity to come and talk about success stories. We know that in our line of work, we always have some struggles and maybe some stressors, but to be able to come and talk about a project that we felt was very successful is always something that we're excited about. I also just want to call out to Steve. Steve is here as well. Steve was one of our program staff that came and worked with us in a partnership actually with IYC. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project, but I have to give you a bit of context with regards to how the project was developed. So in 2017, when I was in my role of community partnership developer, we realized, myself and my team, that we were not necessarily meeting the needs of our newcomer students as well as we could. So we knew that the federal government through Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship in Canada was having a call for proposals. And we thought that maybe we could develop a program that could best meet the needs of our high school youth. So we developed a program which would be research-based, which would track and follow a program offered to high school newcomer youth in areas of in schools where there were high numbers of newcomer youth and in areas where there was not a lot of services. So that really started the project back in 2017. We were successful in receiving 3-year funding project, which we actually focused on mentorship. And we called it the Connects Newcomer Youth Mentorship Program. Part of the findings from that project, again, it was research-based and was followed with the research team for 3 years. What we found out is because we did have such a limited amount of time to deliver the program in each of the different schools, we weren't able to do mentorship with the community, which is what we had hoped. In order to do due diligence and match our newcomer youth with people from the community, we didn't have the time to put in place the safeguards to ensure their safety. So then we switched gears and we thought maybe we could do mentorship from within the school. We would use peers. So we started with that as our focus. And we put out registrations and we got lots and lots of applicants. And what we found out is that all of the newcomer students that applied to be part of the program didn't want to be mentees, they all wanted to be mentors. And so that was an interesting finding because, again, it had us shift in how we thought of things. And again, instead of thinking of our newcomer youth as wanting or needing something from a deficit lens, they were approaching us from a point where they had something that they felt they could give, something that they could offer. So then we, again, switched our approach and we began group mentorship. So we did have some students in our group that needed help, and then we had other newcomer students who wanted to help out and had skills that they could offer other students. So then that started the first Connects Newcomer program that we did from 2018 to 2021. At the end of that program, we all got hit with COVID. We all had to go online. We all struggled to offer youth programs that we normally offer in person online. So we finished off that project. We received our research report. And then again, the research finding found that personal relationships were key in order to having students succeed in areas of engagement, connection, feeling less isolated. So then in 2021, IRCC put another call out, but they wanted it to be responsive to COVID. So in this proposal, we wrote it from a perspective where we wanted to measure what modality was more effective in meeting the needs of high school newcomer youth, an in-person program or an online program, knowing that the focus of the project and what our objectives were to increase engagement, decrease feelings of isolation, knowledge about schools, better relationships, increasing issues around self-esteem, self-confidence. So that was the basis of the project. It was funded. However, there were lots of issues. Instead of a 3-year project, it really came out to about a 2.5-year project. They also wanted us to focus on partnerships, and that's where IYC from CICS and Kevin was really instrumental. We formed a partnership with his agency based out of York Region as well, where we engaged or contracted one of his youth staff. And then his youth staff came and they were one of our project specialists and helped us run the program. Okay. So really, talked a little bit about the context, again, measuring what's more effective in person or online. We went across York Region. And the research that we did basically through the evaluation was to evaluate both from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective, what was the best methodology in in capturing data so that we could then pass on to the ministry so it can change practices going forward. So again, a research approach, just this quick quote from the research we found, although our study shows that the policies, procedures, and strategies that have been established to address complex needs of immigrant students align with the available evidence-based research, it is important that the ministry consider the development of more targeted and direct evidence-based recommendations on the kinds of programs and services and practices that should be adopted by schools to fulfill the ministry's mandates. And that was Lauren Valente in 2019. We know high school is difficult for many people. When you add the complexity of being a newcomer, being new to the community, not having the language, maybe your parents are struggling with their own housing issues or their own settlement issues, it becomes much more complex. It's very easy to be invisible in school. It's very easy to start to not engage not only with peers, but teachers and other people and making those connections. Okay, so really quickly, what the program did, again, focus and some of our objectives were connections. So again, trying to make connections through the school board with our students to their community. It had to be flexible. So we knew from our previous program that for many of the students, they wanted to meet at lunchtime. After school, they had commitments, family commitments, maybe school commitments, maybe they had part-time jobs. Lunchtime worked best. We also made sure that it was very youth driven. Before we started any engagement with any of the different high schools, we would do a survey. And again, it would be a picture survey around the room with pictures, and all the students would get dots in case they didn't have the language. And we would ask them what it was that they wanted to do. So whether it was field trips, whether it was learning, whether it was skill building, we asked them and they would tell us what they wanted to do. And then again, we would ask them about whether it was engaging in the school or outside the school. And then some of the positive outcomes that came out through this was that they would feel connected. There would be that feeling of engagement and knowing that if we're able to connect with our students and provide an atmosphere where they feel like they belong and they have that person or people they can connect with, whether they're peers or whether it's staff, maybe we can decrease feelings of isolation, disengagement, anxiety that may often be felt by newcomers. What made the program was distinct, and I think because we were able to reach the students where they were, we didn't expect them to come to us because they were already in the schools. We knew the schools where there were a higher number of newcomers. We were able to go into those schools and offer it. We got the approval and engagement of the principal, of school social workers, of guidance office. And so because we were able to go into the school setting and meet them where it was at, it made it different than expecting them to go somewhere else. Again, because we were able to meet them where they were, we were able to get referrals from school settlement workers, from social workers, from teachers, and they would have them come to our program when we were offering it. And just to say, they're in our schools, there's not school settlement workers in all of our schools. Some of the high need schools have settlement workers, but anybody who's here that's a settlement worker, we know you do an amazing job, and a lot of your time that you're in schools is usually spent seeing kids on an individual basis because there are so many needs. So working with their support, we're able to provide programs to the students that they identified as needing some support. Again, diverse activities because the kids decided what it was that they wanted to do. We were able to make all of our activities very intentional in our programming. So Steve and 2 other program staff made sure that every activity that we did was to reinforce one of the goals or objectives. So whether it was increase language skills, increase knowledge of community, increase feelings of engagement, belonging, leadership, activities and games would be planned that would always have that aspect or element of reinforcing those objectives. Sense of belonging was one, self-perception was another one. We also talked a lot about future success. In order to feel engaged and connected, positive self-esteem and positive self-perception was important. We did lots of volunteer opportunities and then allowed students to not only engage with each other, but with people in the community where they could provide help or their own assistance. Skill development, improving English literacy skills as well. Life skills, we did first aid, leadership training, were some of the activities that we did as well. So these are some of the schools where we were active in. We tried to divide up the program into the areas where we were. York Region is divided up into 4 areas. And for those of you who don't know, York Region really is just north of Steeles. It goes right from Steeles right up to Lake Simcoe at the very far end of the where the lake is. Okay, so these are the schools. We went to the west, we went to central area, we went east, and we went north. Again, the geographical area, the geographic and the demographics of each school was different, and the community that was represented there were all different and distinct. Again, we had a really good staff that were able to connect with the different communities and the students that we served. So all in all, in the 2 years, we had about 280 students that combined both our online and in-person. Our online program also was offered once a week, and it was offered after school. Kids would all engage online with the link, and then our instructors or program staff would lead them through very similar intentional programs that again would reinforce issues around engagement, connection, leadership, language skills, and again, the feeling of belonging to something else. And the online program was really successful. What we did also find is that students who may have finished the 10-week or 12 weeks, that was the duration of most of the programs, would then go and join our online component. So they'd finish in person, then go and join up online. And so again, it just reinforced the need that students feel connected to something else. We're able to offer 3 different online components as well. Some of the activities that we did, of course, like I said, everything was intentional. English conversation skills, we did lots of life skills, sports and activities. We did a storytelling through an art quilt making activity. We also did tile making where they told their stories. Again, being part of something bigger where everything would come together and then be displayed as one big unit. Canadiana, they wanted to go snow tubing. So that was actually a really fun day. Treetop trekking. We did high ropes. We went to the aquarium down here in the city. And for many students, they had never done activities in the snow. Some students had never been down here in the city. When they actually saw the CN Tower and they thought, you know, I see it when we drive on the highway, but never been down here. Those type of activities that we were able to do, and again, all free of charge, really was something that we saw the connections with regards to knowing something bigger than your community. We did life skills things like baking and cooking. We made sure that we offered some training, things that can go on their resume, and those are some of the stuff there. So what we found that was really important with the qualitative and the quantitative was the stories that we heard back from the students. Again, many students we heard that they felt better connected. They had friends. It was a safe space for them to be themselves. They felt respected and they felt honored by the leaders. Social confidence, they liked coming to school, one person said. School familiarity. It's very easy to go to school every day, go to your locker, go to class, and then leave. School familiarity through some activities that we did, the scavenger hunts through the school, that they had to go and identify different places in the school and take pictures with their friends and selfies, and then come back, gave them that connection to their school, that now they knew where student success was, they knew where the guidance office was, they knew where the cafeteria, all these areas that they may not go to on their normal day, go to school, go to class, and come home. So again, some students were saying that they understand more where the music room is, where the gym is. Students also reported feeling more confident speaking English. Making new friends with the Connects group made me improve my communication skills. We did some conversation circles as well. They also said that being in the Connects program decreased their need to have a translator. We did lots of trust building activities, again, not only with us, but also with teachers in the school, so that they knew where they can go to if they need help. So online versus in-person impact. Oh, yeah, online versus in-person. Basically, both were very successful. Online, only issues we had were numbers. Our number group was a bit smaller than we had hoped to make some real impact on numbers. But overall, when we compared in-person versus online, in-person rated higher. Knowing that relationships are everything when we talk about students and feelings of engagement. Here's my information. I don't have a QR code, but if you want a copy, our research report that's going back to IRCC was just released last week from our research team. So here's my information, and if you want any research based on what we did or contact me, here's my contact information. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Patty, for highlighting the crucial role and opportunities that schools have in empowering and supporting our youth. We'll hold the questions till the end. Hopefully we'll have a couple of minutes till then, but I'd like to just move on to our final sharing, the Journeys to Active Citizenship project, which is a project that has designed a curriculum to implement civic engagement programs that enhance the capacity of settlement organizations to create opportunities for immigrants and refugees to use and further develop their civic skills and influential role in civic life. This presentation will discuss the importance of civic engagement amongst and the curriculum developed for immigrant, migrant, and refugee youth. So our presenters and speakers today is Tania Ruiz Chapman, Bilingual Coordinator for Policy Journeys to Active Citizenship OCASI. Tania is a bilingual policy coordinator for the Journeys to Active Citizenship project at OCASI. She's completing her PhD in the Social Justice Education Program and is a course instructor at the University of Toronto. Her work is rooted in critical disability studies, critical race theory, migration studies, and Marxist theory. Tania has long been engaged in community work with undocumented detainees in various capacities, as well as with temporary foreign migrant workers in Ontario, Canada. Joining her is Paul Bishop, Project Manager of Journeys to Active Citizenship, North York Community Housing. Paul manages the Journeys to Active Citizenship project, which focuses on co-designing civic engagement programs for and with immigrants and refugees. Paul's work emphasizes collaboratively creating educational resources that foster community participation and active citizenship. In different roles on the project, Paul has supported the development of several iterations of Journeys to Active Citizenship, including most recently our Community Through Our Lens, a youth photo essay program which supports youth as they discover their communities and reflect on their place within them. Please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the almost end of the day. So we're going to be speaking about the Journeys to Active Citizenship project, specifically the youth component our community through our lens. So I'll keep it tight with time. It's hard to do the project justice in 15 minutes, but we'll do our best here. So we'll be speaking about what the project is, what the importance of youth active citizenship is. We'll speak a little bit about the youth program itself, and then just closing with some thoughts on how you might be able to be involved with the work that we do. The project is a partnership between North York Community House, where I work, and OCASI, which is where Tanya works. I'm just going to test out my stopwatch here. So the project is a capacity building project. It focuses on working with settlement agencies, with settlement workers to support civic engagement for immigrants and refugees. We've worked over 5 years. It's a 5-year project to build capacity for different organizations. It focuses really on asset building, on supporting people build the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence and connections that people need to be active citizens. It focuses on different components of civic engagement than you might usually expect. There's a bit of a less of focus on voting and levels of government and things that you might traditionally associate with civic engagement. Focuses more on building skills, building confidence, being an active listener, being an empathetic listener, having uncomfortable conversations with folks, right? All the sort of foundational skills that you might need in your journey as an active citizen. Our definition is pretty broad. I won't go into it in the interest of time. We focus very much on the political and the non-political elements of active citizenship. That's a really quick overview of the project. I would love to give you more, but I will turn it over to Tanya, who's going to speak about specifically youth active citizenship and how we in the project see that. Go ahead.
Thanks. So there's actually, I'm sure throughout the whole day, very evidently a lot of overlap between the programs and objectives of different organizations. So like so many others, one of the objectives or the 3 sort of pillars of Journeys to Active Citizenship is fostering a sense of belonging, finding and creating opportunities, and youth empowerment. So what does that mean for us? Well, active citizenship takes belonging beyond fitting in. So thinking about strengthening relationships within communities, help lead youth or help youth lead themselves to feeling integrated in their communities as contributing members of their local culture and dynamics, and youth becoming more aware of history, culture, people, and politics of their location. Finding and creating opportunities, like so many have already discussed, thinking about active citizenship as a strengthening of relationships within communities, as networks that can lead to volunteer and work opportunities, and as support systems. Young active citizens become more and more confident in their capacity to contribute to their communities, we hope, through the Journeys to Active Citizenship programming. And they can learn different ways of contributing to their surroundings if they so choose and how they choose. And finally, this pillar of youth empowerment. Active citizenship can help newcomer youth find the tools and resources for self-advocacy. Young newcomers learn what their rights and responsibilities are as community members. Active citizenship helps develop communication and critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and it can develop into peer mentorships that have been explored in other programming as well. Before we move into an example of one of the examples of a program or a curriculum that's developed through Journeys to Active Citizenship project, I want to sort of highlight or note or make a note of the fact that these are tools and not formulas, right? So the goal of this initiative is to create curriculum that can be used by service providers, people working with youth in a way that makes most sense to them, right? And to change it based on the groups that we're working with. And I say all this just in reaction to our young speakers at the beginning of this session, in that there's gaps in this curriculum because we can't cover everything, but we think it can be used to empower and hopefully to politicize the sense of belonging, in my opinion. Sorry, Paul, I don't know if that's true.
Absolutely true. Okay, well, thanks, Tanya. I think that was a great overview of really what youth active citizenship means and why it's a really important kind of cornerstone of empowering youth, right? So to close off, I just want to speak about how it is we do this in our project, right? What are the tools that we use to support youth active citizenship? Because our project doesn't just focus on youth, it focuses on immigrants and refugees generally. We've created a program called Our Community Through Our Lens, which specifically focuses on immigrant and refugee youth. And I will just give you an overview of how this program has been used in different settlement agencies and different ethnocultural organizations in the last few months. It was the product of consultations with over 1,000 stakeholders over the last 4 years, interviews, curriculum co-design sessions. So that's how we've produced it. What we have is a 5-day sort of mini course almost, right? Where youth are building a photo essay about their community. What we found through these consultations is that photography was a really, really good and accessible and kind of engaging way to get youth thinking about their communities, right? Beyond some of these, more abstract ways that they might be interacting with civics, like in civics class or whatever, right? First, the foundation they have to build is a feeling of belonging, connection to their community, right? As Tanya was speaking about. And a great way to do that is through photography. So what they're doing is, I'll go through this pretty quickly. What they're doing is, over the course of 5 days, thinking about what it is in their community that really matters to them. Where are the places that they feel like they belong? And then sort of building a story out of that, right? So on day 1, they're identifying shared values. On day 2, they plan out a walk through parts of their community that really matter to them. Day 3, they're going on a photo essay adventure where they're taking pictures, right? And thinking about what story about my community do I want to tell. Day 4, planning an exhibition with the photos, right? So taking these photos, putting them together in a kind of creative way that, as I said, tells a story, right? Great opportunity for some sort of event planning, right? And a bit of a sense of empowerment that they're able to organize a community event, invite different members of their community, and show the great work that they've done. I'll show you some examples of some of the folks that did it. We did this with a group in Ottawa where they did some presentations on environmental issues in their community. That was a group of Ukrainian newcomer youth. This is at the Thunder Bay Multicultural Agency where we piloted this back in January. So they were able to go out and tell different stories about the culture of their community, some of the natural wonders, right? This is some other examples of the work that was done there. And we really saw youth actually really thinking about their communities in a really intentional way, right? In ways that, from what we heard, they hadn't always had a chance to before. So we were really, really pleased with the results. And the program continues. So that's, we'll just close with this, just ways in which you can get involved. Just noticing a little formatting thing there. Sorry about that. Feasibility of training locally. Essentially, this is a program that would be easy for any settlement agency to integrate into youth programming that they already have. We have produced this toolkit, which gives settlement workers a day-by-day, step-by-step run through of how to run it. It has all the resources that you need, and we'd be able to offer a training to anybody that's interested. So I do welcome you to reach out to us. If you would like to bring this to your organization, you could take down our contact information there if you like. I've also put some of my cards at the back if you want to snatch one of those. And you can also visit our website. All of the resources for this program, for this project, whether it's the Our Community Through Our Lens youth program or any number of other curriculum tools that we've built, they're also available for download up on our website. So you can also follow us on Twitter and our SettleNet community as well. You're welcome to check us out there and join the conversation. Okay.
That we also have webinars and an upcoming conference in February where we bring in different speakers to speak to sort of civic engagement on the ground. So those are available online and will continue to be published. And there's a podcast being developed and which will be published soon on our website.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We threw a lot at you in 10 minutes, so thanks for bearing with us. Oh, do I have something?
Thanks so much, Paul and Tanya. Thanks for highlighting the importance and impact of fostering active citizenship within our youth. I just want to open it up for questions and just check in. Do we have any questions from the online participants? No, then I'll open it up to our in-person participants. If there are any questions, maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions for now.
I have a question for Patty. Amazing work. We just did an Ontario education report at FCJ, and I didn't know that York was doing this project. So lovely to hear about that. From the board side, what was the receptiveness of working on these kind of service models with community organizations that work directly with the newcomers? And how receptive was the ministry taking this feedback and maybe implementing it at school boards across the province?
Well, like I said, the report just came out, so we haven't gotten a huge release yet. Our school board, York Region District School Board, works with the community a lot, and they know that that's really important. So they're very receptive to this going on. Again, like all the challenges, it's funding. So, you know, as all of us in community development, the one thing we're afraid of is the one and done, right? You go in, you do it, you leave, and you're done. So we're trying to figure out how we can now continue this without the funding. How can we still meet the needs of our newcomer youth? So we're still trying to work that into what we're doing, but it hasn't gotten to the ministry level yet.
Thanks so much, Patty. Any other questions? Patty?
So I have a question for Paul about your project. When you say it's 5 days, is it 5 full days? Is it a few hours over 5 days? If we were to have you come in, or if we were to implement the program?
Yeah, it's not 5 full days. It's usually 5 2-hour sessions done over the course of 5 days. Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty quick answer.
Maybe we can get one more question. Yeah, I think everyone is really tired. So we'll pause there for now. You guys have all the contact information. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to one another. And we'll begin our wrap up, and I'll ask Kevin and Tarana to come up stage. And we'll be all able to go home soon.
I start first, right? Well, I don't know. Do you have slides for this? No, right? No slide. Okay, perfect. So once again, thank you everyone for coming to the conference. Our forum. I just wanted to bring some key things that we learned today, just kind of wrap up and just get in your minds, throughout the work that we do in our, once we go back to our centers and agencies. First and foremost is learning about challenges and how we address them. So in my session, I talked about some general challenges. Perhaps we can think about more collaboration and work on that and see how we can, again, address these in a more, critical lens and stuff like that. Second thing was the mental health challenges youth face and some solutions for that. So our presenters, Tidman and Hannah, talked about, a lot about what we are the youth that they see in their mental health programming that they do. Third thing was different youth and different needs. So we had a panel of speakers to talk about different perspectives as to what what different youth from different sectors, different intersectionality have to do. The fourth thing was importance of networking. I hope my activity taught you some stuff about networking. And then last but not least, we had some projects and some success stories. I guess a better word for that, but yeah, success stories about the projects I've been running throughout, the Ontario, basically. So yeah, just want to talk about that. I'm going to pass it over to Ezrin for some other notes to go over.
Yeah, just hopefully everyone is leaving this forum a little bit more connected with one another, a little bit more knowledgeable about the different services and projects and resources out there. I just want to bring the attention back to the display tables at the very edge. There's still resources available, so feel free to grab some, and feel free to connect with one another after this. If there's any projects that you're working on, any opportunities of collaboration, we encourage that you continue to foster these relationships even beyond this forum.
Thank you again, everyone. First, I would like to thank Ezrin. I don't want to miss this opportunity for the last session. Thank you very much. And thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Memengwa. She left already. Patty, thank you very much for sharing with us your stories. And of course, what I need from you, evaluation form, especially your feedback, what ideas, what professional development training opportunities you would like us to work together with you or in other partnership, but what we would like to learn. Please take a few minutes of your time and complete the evaluation form. End of the program, you have QR code on the table. We have a hand copy as well. If you would like, there's a back on the table, Carolina, you can please distribute. And on the end, of course, I would like to thank again our sign language interpreter. They all day in their feeds. And I appreciate very much Francine Hamdi. Rana Hamdi, okay. And then Martin, thank you very much. Great big thanks to Ezrin and Kevin. Almost 5-6 months, we were working together, putting the session together, finding out objectives, speakers who would be best to speak to that. All 5 months with me, I get paid, they don't. Thank you very much for your time. Big thanks to my colleagues, volunteer from OCASI, some of them already left. Hind, thank you very much. Say thanks to Basil from CRC, he's in Montreal. Brian, thank you very much. On behalf of you, all the catering services and venue coordinators, I really enjoyed having my event here at the Toronto Metropolitan University, and see you in the future. Thank you.